are your friends, are liberals, the Jewish liberals, willing to vote for Donald Trump this time around?
100%. And I think Shai said earlier that he doesn't know that many who are making the switch, which I find really difficult to believe as someone who has traveled across this country nonstop for 11 months. I'm not saying this because I'm a surrogate for the Trump campaign. I'm not saying this because the Trump campaign wants me to say this. I disagree with most of Trump's domestic policies. I disagree with his moral aptitudes. I am doing this not because I'm a Republican. I'm still a registered Democrat, and I registered to vote as a Democrat the day I turned 18. I'm doing this because as someone who has dealt directly for the last 12 months with anti-Semitism on college campuses, has dealt with the backstabbing, the lies, and the deceits of the Democratic Party, who lied to our faces, telling Jewish students they would pass the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act before November. I have traveled across countries, and so many people, especially young people, who we are liberal, we are pretty progressive, and we're pretty pissed off. We have seen objectively our leadership, those who we voted for, clearly not make the case as to why we should continue to subscribe to that party. It will be difficult to forget Jerry Nadler, the Democratic ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee, falling asleep as I start giving testimony of my experiences of anti-Semitism. It will be difficult to forget Democratic ranking member Bobby Scott criticizing us for focusing on anti-Semitism exclusively during our hearing at the House Education Committee. It will be difficult to forget the fact that when we were testifying in front of Congress, almost all of the Democrats left right after the hearing, whereas every single Republican stayed to shake our hands. It is difficult to forget that we invited Kamala Harris to come to the OHEL and pray with us, and she said no. It will be difficult to forget that we have asked Kamala Harris repeatedly to meet with Jewish students, and to this day, she has not agreed to do it. These are the facts. And young American Jews have woken up to this reality. We are passionate about our Judaism. We are passionate about Israel. We are passionate about expressing our identity. And if American Jews want to be taken seriously, stop being taken for granted.
Now, before I let you, Shai, before I let you respond, I want to play a clip from the Republican Jewish Coalition, which is really going after grassroots Democrats. I'd like you to comment about that as well. Here we go.
Kamala. Oy vey. Oy vey.
It's okay. Vote Republican.
You have to be Meshuggah not to vote for Republican.
I was a Democrat all of my life.
Registered Democrat for many years.
The Democratic Party has changed.
Listen to your bubbies, listen to your Zadies. They know best.
It's okay to vote Republican.
I'm a Holocaust survivor. End of 1947, we came to America. My parents are Holocaust survivors.
Came here after World War II.
I want to speak to my grandchildren.
If my grandchildren want a good life coming up, do not vote for Kamala.
I think you have to be nuts to support Kamala Harris.
You've got to be Meshuggah to vote for Kamala. She's had 4 years to do some good things, and I have seen no good things.
There's so much anti-Semitism now. It's frightening.
Kamala Harris is only going to intensify that. I'm a grandfather of 2 kids.
I have 5 grandchildren.
I have 6 grandchildren. 3 of whom are going to be voting this year.
I worry about them, and I don't know what country they're going to be living in. I worry about the future of my grandchildren. If they were in college now, I would be going wild. I would be worried day and night.
We have kids in colleges and they're afraid.
Please, my lovely grandchildren, I don't care if you went to Harvard or Yale, which you did. You've got to vote Republican.
There's a word in Yiddish that describes what is happening today in the Democratic Party, and that word is shanda. Ashanda. It means a shame.
You have to vote Republican.
And remember, if you vote for Kamala, oy vey, are you in trouble?
So you see a pitch, Shai, to go after liberal Jews, especially older Jews.
Yeah, look, Zev, let's a little tachlis. They're not going after liberal Jews. They're going after Jews who are in the middle. They're going after Jews who are voting Democratic, who are maybe concerned about wokeism or whatever it is, and they're winnable. Most of the liberal Jews are not shifting over. And this commercial, by the way, this commercial is recorded in Jaime's Delicatessen, which is...
That was a separate one, I think. It was in Jaime's Delicatessen.
Oh, well, there was one in Jaime's Delicatessen with the 3 bubbies. That Jaime's Delicatessen is our local treif delicatessen in Balakinwood. Okay? So the idea that, Bubby's ordering the bacon, the BLT at Jaime's, and God forbid you should vote for Kamala Harris because she married a Jew. That's an awful thing. So... I just made a commercial right there. Very good. Maybe Matt Brooks will call me up.
And people boycotted the deli, I heard.
I don't eat in treif restaurants generally. I'll have a cup of coffee in a treif restaurant, but not a treif restaurant that calls itself Jaime's. I guess
can I add
that it might be kosher.
It's in Jaime Town.
Can I add something quickly? First of all, the Jaime thing is funny. I didn't know that was a Trafe restaurant. I was
Google
in.
it, see their menu.
That's funny. I was in Pittsburgh a month ago. I'm going back to Pennsylvania Monday, Tuesday to do some events for the campaign. I have met liberal American Jews. I am a liberal American Jew. I mean, look, the polls will decide who's right on Tuesday, but I can tell you anecdotally, the amount of people who've come up to me after my talk at the synagogue, after my talk at the JCC, after my talk, and have told me quietly, you know, I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris, I'm supporting Trump. And they won't admit it. And this is one of the reasons why there was a surprise election in 2016 with Donald Trump.
Let
me speak one last point, and then I'll get to you, Shai. I think it's called the Jewish Policy Institute, although I could be wrong on the name. They have consistently shown that if you are a Jewish American and your primary concern is abortion, is tackling climate change, is immigration, overwhelmingly you're going to support Kamala Harris. But if you're a Jewish American and your primary concerns are Israel, are the hostages, or anti-Semitism, overwhelmingly you're going to support Donald Trump. I think there are plenty of reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, like the ones I just mentioned, abortion and climate change and immigration. But for the Jewish Democratic Council of America, for example, Hallie Sofer, who just blocked me on Twitter, for her and her team to make
pronounced Haley. It's Kamala and it's Haley.
Okay, I said Kamala. I said Kamala. For them to make the argument that we should vote for Kamala Harris, Dafka specifically because of the Israel issue and because of anti-Semitism, I think is simply a ludicrous argument. And once again, I encourage all the listeners and Jewish Americans, just ask your grandkids how it's going on college campuses. Ask the LA Jewish community about what it was like being at a Das Torah that day. Ask Jewish New Yorkers what it's like riding the subway with your kippah. And as one of your callers mentioned, the election will come down to a very simple question. Are Jewish Americans safer than they were 4 years ago? The answer is objectively no.
I don't have the same memory capacity at my advanced age, Kenahara, but I'll try to respond to some of the points and put in a little context from my perspective. Okay, yes, the president is the president for the 4 years. Whatever happens is sort of the president's responsibility. Whether or not the president has actually caused it. Okay. During these 4 years, Donald Trump, former president, has hosted in his Mar-a-Lago home club Kanye West, Nick Fuentes, has not apologized for it. Oh, he didn't realize who Nick Fuentes was. But come on, that's just mental capacity or not mental capacity. There's no way he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was. He's doing that, and I believe that his doing that is not good for the Jews.
Are you saying he's anti-Semite?
Am I saying what?
That Donald Trump is an anti-Semite?
I'm saying it's not good for the Jews. I don't have to prove what's in his heart. It's not good for the Jews. Now, I just got off my my track here. This idea that liberals are moving, Jewish liberals are moving to the Trump camp. Bill Kristol, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, he organized his own group to go after Democrats. Actually, no, 8 years ago, I think, to go after Obama. Yes, to go after Obama, because Obama was bad for Israel, bad for the Jews. And he and Elliot Cohen, a former professor of mine, who is also, neocon from the both Bush administrations, I believe, they did an event actually with JDCA, which Haley Sofer, who Shabbos mentioned, and Bill Kristol, who he worked for Reagan. His father, of course, Irving Kristol, was a left winger who became a right winger, basically founded with Norman Podhoretz the whole neoconservative movement. They went through a whole long case. You can look it up on YouTube. Bill Kristol, Kristol, JDCA, and you will see their arguments. And I don't have to make those arguments. This is a prominent Jewish conservative who is firmly on for Kamala Harris, and not because of abortion, and not because of anything else, specifically on Israel and on anti-Semitism.
But you have to admit, Shai, that the majority of Jews that are voting for Donald Trump are based on the Israel fact, and those that are voting for Kamala Harris.
Yes, so that was the point.
Issues.
Thank you for reminding me that. Yes. So here's another thing. I would advise anybody listening or watching that you should make a decision based on what's right for you. If there are people you look to for guidance, look to them for guidance. If Bill Kristol is one of those people, look to Bill Kristol. But the idea that you're going to look around and see what percentage of people are going this way or that way, I'm going to go with the percentage of people, the bigger percentage, that I don't think is what voting is about.
But nobody's saying, no, everybody's saying is voting either on Israel or
I'm just making my point, which is that I think the fact that, yes, the majority of people whose primary consideration on election day is who's better for Israel are voting for Donald Trump. Now, one little subnote about that is one of the reasons that I am voting for Kamala Harris and feeling very good about it is I don't see that Israel is under threat if I vote for Kamala Harris. If I did, then maybe Israel would be my primary consideration. But because I trust Kamala Harris, because I've trusted Joe Biden, because I trust the Democratic Party, and because, yes, I trust Haley Soifer, that's my business, I am voting for, that's why I'm voting for Kamala Harris. Now, if I were concerned about Kamala Harris on Israel, then yes, Israel would be more of a consideration for me when I vote. But I don't see that Israel is at stake if I vote for Kamala Harris. And I would ask your listeners right now to Google B-52 and Israel, and you'll see what's going on as we speak. Overnight, the B-52 is being transferred to the Middle East by the United States, our biggest strategic nuclear bombers, just to put Iran on notice. And one more thing.
One more thing.
Google Doug
the
Emhoff.
fact that the administration wants to ban, they say if Israel doesn't give more humanitarian aid, they're going to ban weapons to Israel.
They didn't actually say that.
They actually said that.
They did not say that they will ban
them.
No, they did not. The letter does not actually say
What
that.
does it say? It says it's going to restrict weapons to Israel?
No, it says they're reminding them of the restrictions for use of U.S. weapons and U.S. assistance. And they said we want in the next 60 days. We want to review it and hope that you will implement appropriate humanitarian. The first time they've done it, and the previous time they did it, Israel did to make greater effort. Now, two more points I just want to make because I talk a little slower, maybe a little louder, but a little slower.
We're almost out of time.
The Islamists that we're so worried about, right? I'm worried about not Islamists per se, but anti-Semitic Islamists. A Republican group. This is a couple months ago. You can look at this in the New York Times or AP, as all these different media outlets. A Republican group was putting out ads in Michigan, targeting, focused to Muslim voters, Muslim American voters, showing Doug Emhoff wearing a kippah. Now, he's not an Orthodox Jew. They happen to find a photo of him wearing a kippah. They're putting that out there. Now, why are Republicans putting out pictures of Doug Emhoff wearing a kippah, sending it to Muslim American voters?
Well, we went through that before. You had to went to both sides and stuff like that.
No, I don't remember any Democrats saying vote for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris because Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris had different pitches for Jews and for Muslims in Michigan, right?
Sorry?
She had different pitches for Jews and Muslims in Michigan.
Yeah, different pitches is one thing. But
just as the opposite about
putting him with the yarmulke, that's it. We're comparing extremely anti-Semitic intent with trying to get two different blocks of voters.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Shabbos, go ahead. We're closing out.
Oh, sorry. One more thing.
30 seconds.
Doug Emhoff did host students at the White House. The husband did, and a lot of federal agencies have met with them. And I'm sorry, Shabbos, if you were not on the invitation list. I'll talk to Haley. We'll get you on the next meeting. But her husband did, and because her husband is leading the show.
But is he running the show, or is Kamala running the show?
He is the primary person in the White House focused on this issue because he is the first Jew to be among the four spouses in the White House in U.S. history. And I'm not saying that because you should vote for her because
as the first Orthodox Jewish grandchildren in the White House.
That's the reason that he is hosting a lot of these meetings because.
Sure. I find this argument really bizarre. It's a pretty sexist argument to say that the woman is so incapable she needs her husband to meet with Jewish students. I don't need an invitation. I don't want an invitation. It would be unproductive because I'm not supporting Kamala Harris. She is running for president. I don't want to meet with her husband. Her husband is someone who discovered he was Jewish 4 years ago, took his first trip 3 years ago to Israel, whose daughter identifies as a Roman Catholic and advocates and fundraises for UNRWA, which again is directly affiliated with Hamas. Jewish students don't want meetings with Doug Emhoff. That is patronizing. That is unacceptable.
Well, students do. Some Jewish students did come to the meeting. So maybe they're not really Jewish, maybe they're not really students, but they were there.
As I was saying, Jewish students want to meet with Kamala Harris because she is the one who is running for president, not her husband, not her surrogates, not her aides, her. It is inexcusable and unacceptable that Donald Trump is the only candidate who has made himself available to Jewish students, having 4 events in the last 2 months alone, and Kamala Harris has refused to speak with Jewish students for months. I also find it despicable that the Jewish Democratic Council of America, forget about the fact they blocked me on Twitter, that I just find funny. The fact of the matter is, not only did they refuse to condemn Chuck Schumer, on the day it was released, that he was encouraging Columbia University not to cooperate with the congressional investigations in anti-Semitism, they actually hosted him that night on Zoom for a Kamala Harris Jewish get out the vote. That is despicable. That is putting Jewish students continuously under the bus. And we have made it very clear, we are part of a group of roughly 50 students, that we want to have a meeting with Chuck Schumer. Again, I don't need to be invited. I don't want to be there, but Jewish students have a right. They are the victims of anti-Semitism. They are facing the front of most of this hate. They have a right to meet with the Senate Majority Leader and to not be lied to. If Kamala Harris wants to have the Jewish American vote, she better earn it. And the last point I'll make, because I know we're running out of time, in terms of the leak letter, it 100%, and I'm actually going to read you. It said failure to demonstrate a sustained commitment to implementing and maintaining these measures may have implications for U.S. policy under NSM 18 and relevant U.S. law. What's NSM 18? NSM 18 prevents the arms transfers that risk facilitating or otherwise contributing to human rights violations. So the United States government under the Biden-Harris administration directly told Israel that unless they supply unless in the next 30 days, if they do not supply humanitarian aid that has been well documented, been stolen by Hamas, unless they supply that aid to the enemy combatant, they will in fact impose an arms embargo. That's exactly what the letter said. And again, all of your listeners can look at it. Kamala Harris lied to Jewish Americans when she said that she would never impose an arms embargo, because in the last month, they have secretly told the Israeli war cabinet, give Hamas more food or we will shut off the supplies. And again, it is true that Israel has been given a significant amount of military equipment from the United States, but that is because the United States are the ones who pushed Israel off the cliff to begin with. You don't get credit for catching them. They're the ones who put Israel in this mess by wavering the sanctions on Iran.
Thank you for watching. If you like this content, you like our programs, please like and subscribe, as it helps the channel get these important conversations out there to a larger audience. So please become a supporter of Talk Line with Zev Brenner by liking us, by supporting us, and telling all your friends to watch. Thank you.